Good morning. Very pleased to welcome Ms. Ulla Hueppe, the Head of Sustainability at Henkel Adhesive Technologies here in Dubai, just ahead of the UAE National Day, the 53rd UAE National Day, and we are at the Henkel Regional Headquarters. Thank you very much. We just finished COP29. Would you please tell us more about your global sustainability initiatives? And when we talk sustainability, it's more business sustainability. So the E and S and G globally, your initiatives, your strategy, your goals, and how you are planning to relay them to this part of the world, to the Middle East.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sal. It's my pleasure to be here today. So obviously, as a global multinational company, we embrace sustainability in its full breadth, meaning the E, the S, and the G. E for us is regenerative planet, so everything we do around climate, circularity, and biodiversity. The S is for us thriving community, so the well-being, the education of our people and the communities, and the G, obviously, the governance piece. Now, overall, Henkel has embraced sustainability since many decades. We're a family-owned company, so more than 30 years also of public reporting. And hence, we are striving big time to embrace sort of every element of this topic. Now, recently, as this is one of the most pressing global topics, we have stepped up our climate commitments because we see globally that here the need for action is very high. So we have just committed to become net zero by 2045.
That's for the Middle East?
That's for Henkel Global, and it includes also Middle East, obviously. So we will have a midterm target by 2030, meaning reducing our scope 1 and 2 emissions from our sites, R&D, warehouses, power plants by 42%, and to reduce our scope 3 emissions, mainly coming from the raw materials that we use, by 30%. Yeah. And then on a longer term, by 2045, we want to be completely net zero, meaning abating for at least 90% of all emissions along the value chain and only offsetting the hard to abate last 10%.
And how are you trying to relay those basically practices and guidelines to this part of the world?
So as I'm representing Henkel Adhesive Technologies, one half of the business, we obviously start with ourselves. We call that leading by example. So we look at our production sites. We have 8 of them here in the region, and we have turned all of these to fully 100% renewable electricity, either through on-site installations or with power purchasing agreements. We have actually 2 sites in Turkey and in India that are already fully carbon neutral running, so both scope 1 and 2 emissions, meaning the fuels and the electricity. And we have one site that is actually running 100% with renewable electricity fully on-site, so not with virtual allocations.
Where is that?
That's in Turkey.
Okay. In terms of transportation, as part of the scope 3, basically, are you planning to have any electric, transportation, clean transportation?
Yes, definitely. I have to say, though, that if you look at our emission profile, scope 1 and 2 emissions, plus also logistics, make up for a very, very small share of our emissions. So we're talking 2-3% only. That's because we are not an energy-intensive company. So we mainly buy the emissions with the raw materials that we use, and then we're only mixing that. So obviously, we also tackle transportation through electrification, etc. That's oftentimes a service that we buy and that we don't run ourselves.
Sustainability and ESG knowledge sharing. You are at the headquarters in Germany, and again, there is appetite in this part of the world, or a need rather, for developing the skills, the ESG skills of the regional teams. So what is this? What is your strategy in this regard?
So my experience from more than a decade in this area is that you have to start with your own people. Oftentimes, your own people feel uncomfortable talking about sustainability because it's complex, it's scientific. So what we do on a regular basis, and we did that just last year also here in Dubai, we invited all our local staff to a huge event where we provided upskilling on the various elements of sustainability so that they feel confident. As a next evolution, we engage with our customers. So we held a series of webinars with our key customers where we provided our know-how to them and also allowed them for questions and engaging on the content. that is a very important pillar.
In terms of buildings, basically, as you know, we see lots of construction in this part of the world, Riyadh, Neom, here, Qatar, Oman, all over, Egypt as well. So how can you help, or what is your strategy to help having greener buildings in this part of the world?
Thank you for the question. So first, we engage also here in partnerships. We are part of the Emirates Green Business Building Council, and that helps us to engage with the stakeholders locally and understand what enables green building to strive. And there's various types of buildings. So we have lots of technical solutions in the area of wood construction, where we basically replace CO2-intensive cement with wood and allow for large buildings to be built out of that, and by that, through the wood capturing a lot of CO2 in the material. At the same time, in the cement business, we are trying to move away from CO2-intensive cement products to less CO2-intensive cement products. So that's really an innovation effort by our R&D teams to replace these different types of cements. And then thirdly, here, especially in this region, a lot of construction is made with metals. So we have a large portfolio of solutions also enabling green buildings in the area of metals, with a specific focus also on the chemical safety of those metals and how they are treated.
Let's talk about cement. Any breakthrough in this regard? You mentioned the R&D in Germany. Where are we globally, basically?
Well, I'm sure you are aware that there are currently globally a couple of leading cement players that are also our partners. And there have been some breakthrough innovations in moving away from a very clinker-intensive, CO2-intensive cement base to alternatives. These alternatives come with some specifics, so you need to sort of
it's
innovate that.
Very complex and advanced exercise.
Exactly, you need to really innovate your product portfolio. You cannot simply exchange it, to ensure that next to the sustainability features, also the performance features are lived up to.
And the cost as well.
And the cost as well, yes. But I have to say, in that case, it's not even sometimes a matter of cost. It's really a matter of having a strong R&D force making that product fit for purpose.
Do you think that there will be a breakthrough in this regard soon? Are we at fast pace?
I would say there's always breakthroughs to be expected when there's an economic benefit to having a breakthrough. And I would say, coming from Europe, and I think I can extend this to this region, there will be a very, very large incentive of exchanging the CO2-intensive cement with alternatives because of the CO2 taxes coming our way. So for long times, cementitious products were also subsidized, and this is going to move away, and hence we will be facing CO2 taxes that directly hit our balance sheets. And that's why global companies like us have both a reputational but then also an economic interest in finding alternatives, and by that having a future-proof portfolio to offer to our industries.
In the Middle East, in the GCC, we believe that carbon tax is coming imminently, maybe 1 year, 2 years. It's indispensable, it's inevitable, in line with the EU alignment. Do you see that your operations in the Middle East, including your partners, are ready for that? And how can you make them ready?
I think we are ready for the facts I already mentioned, which is that we have already turned our production sites into running carbon neutral, or at least on renewable electricity, and we have plans in place to also replace the fossil fuels with green alternatives. Now, I think it's very much welcome that there's a global playing field with CO2 taxes, because that also balance out for multinationals the advantages and disadvantages of where you have your headquarters and where you have your business. So it would be highly welcome if we have the same stimulus all around the world.
My last question is about 2025. We're very few weeks away. What is your sustainability and ESG strategy for 2025 in this part of the world in particular?
So definitely we keep on pushing on the climate agenda. That's very important. We further want to scout more partnerships in this region. We have to say we're still in our infancies. We're talking to startups, we're talking to associations, we're talking to universities. So we want to ensure we find the right network of partnerships. I would say another really important element, not just for the region but overall, is data, because I think if we want to make this also a competitive advantage for the private sector, we have to have very reliable CO2 data around our products, our operations, and also the impact that we generate in the use phase of our products.
Ms. Hueppe, thank you very much for being with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.